for a splash scene, straight out of a movie. My brand new dress took the hit, soaking up the murky water like a sponge. Fantastic, I muttered, glaring at my ruined outfit. Hey, I am so sorry. The driver, a tall, rugged type with a messy head of hair, jumped out, looking more horrified than I felt. He approached with his hands raised as if I might smack him with my purse. You've got to be kidding me. Look at my dress. I snapped, too shocked to accept an apology. Lara, ever the peacemaker, rushed over, stifling a laugh. Ella, meet Darren, she said, barely keeping a straight face. Darren, this is Ella, the birthday girl's very best friend who you just drenched. Darren winced. Great first impression, huh? He said with a crooked smile that was probably supposed to be charming. Let me make it up to you, dinner, on me, to start with? Because you've got a tab running for ruining dresses? I shot back. Lara nudged me, giving me a give him a break look. Come on, it's just water. It'll dry, Lara chuckled, linking her arm in mine and leading me toward the entrance. Darren followed, looking genuinely apologetic and slightly amused by my fiery welcome. Inside, the restaurant buzzed with Lara's other friends, but she steered us to a quieter corner with a clean, dry table. You guys start here. I'll grab drinks, and Ella, try not to murder him before I get back, she teased, leaving Darren and me in an awkward silence. He pulled out a chair for me, and I sat, folding my arms. I'm Darren, and before I made a splash, I was actually hoping to meet you tonight. Lara's told me a lot about you, he started, trying to smooth things over. Did she also tell you I hate surprises? I quipped, finally cracking a reluctant smile. I'm Ella, IT manager and apparently a mud magnet. Darren laughed. I work in marketing. Maybe I can help you market your new look? Post-puddle chic could be the next big thing. I rolled my eyes. Don't quit your day job, I said, warming up to his attempt at humor. Lara returned with a tray of drinks, breaking the ice further. Here, maybe this will clean the slate, she said, handing us our drinks. So, Darren, got any more surprises up your sleeve? I asked, taking a sip of my drink. Just my charming personality and dazzling conversation skills, he replied with a grin. Oh, and an apology dinner. I'm serious about that. Let me take you out to make up for the disaster. I considered him for a moment, his earnest face making me soften a bit. All right, you're on, I conceded. But I'm choosing the place. Somewhere without any puddles nearby. By the end of the night, the dress was still a mess, but my initial anger had dried up, replaced by a reluctant intrigue towards Darren. Maybe this disaster of a night could turn into something worthwhile. After Darren's disastrous yet somehow endearing introduction, we started seeing each other. It wasn't long before casual dinners turned into weekend getaways, late-night talks, and eventually, meeting each other's families. I should have known things would get more complicated once families got involved. Look, I really like you, Ella, Darren said one evening as we walked through the park, his hand finding mine. I think it's time you met my folks. What do you say? Sure, I agreed, squeezing his hand, trying to ignore the nervous flutter in my stomach. Meeting the parents was a big step, but after the way we started, what was the worst that could happen? The day arrived, and Darren drove us to a modest house in the suburbs. His mom, Janet, and his dad, Tom, greeted us with warm smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. Dinner was served, and that's when the questions began. So, Ella, Darren tells us you're in IT? Tom asked, passing me the mashed potatoes. Yeah, I manage a team at a tech firm downtown, I answered, trying to keep my tone light. Janet leaned in, her eyes sharp. Must be a good position. What does that pay, if you don't mind my asking? I choked on my water a bit. Well, it's enough to keep me busy and out of trouble, I joked, trying to dodge the question. And your family? Do you support anyone? Janet continued, her gaze fixed on me like a detective interrogating a suspect. Just my aunt, I replied, feeling my cheeks heat up. She raised me. I help her out when I can. That's very noble of you, Tom noted, his tone suggesting he was sizing up my financial worthiness rather than my character. I changed the subject, talking about a recent project at work, but the vibe had shifted. We left soon after dessert, and I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. On the drive back, I mentioned the interrogation to Darren. Your parents have a lot of questions about money, huh? Darren shrugged. That's just how they are. Always planning, always calculating. Don't sweat it. I decided to call my Aunt Tessa later that night, to unload. Ella, you need to watch out, she warned over the phone after hearing about the dinner. People who start with money questions never stop. They're marking you. Aunt Tessa, they were just curious, I guess. Darren says it's normal for them. Normal? Honey, there's curious, and there's nosy. And those two sound like they're planning to spend your money, not get to know you, she cautioned, her voice stern with experience. Months passed, and Darren's charm outweighed my reservations. When he proposed, it was sweet, simple, and in the same park where we'd decided to meet his parents. Marry me, Ella. Let's start our own family tradition, he said, his eyes hopeful. I said yes. The ring was beautiful, and the moment felt right. My doubts about his parents lingered, but love, as they say, was blind. As I prepared for bed that night, Aunt Tessa's words echoed in my head, mixing with Lara's. A knot of worry settled in my stomach, but I pushed it aside. Darren was worth it. His parents, well, I'd cross that bridge when I came to it. But deep down, I knew that bridge was coming up fast, and I wasn't sure I was ready for what was on the other side. Wedding planning kicked off at full throttle after Darren popped the question. I was over the moon, busy choosing flowers and tasting cake samples. I expected it to be stressful, but fun. What I didn't expect was how quickly the red flags would start waving, not just fluttering in the breeze. One evening, as we sat down with our laptops to budget our expenses, Darren looked unusually tense. Ella, I've got to tell you something, he started, avoiding my eyes. My job's been a bit rocky lately. I might not be able to chip in as much as I wanted for the wedding. I raised an eyebrow, putting down my coffee. Okay, how much are we talking? He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I can barely cover the band, maybe. So, what? I cover everything else? The venue, catering, photographer? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Darren winced. I hate asking you this, babe. But yeah, I think you'll need to. Just until I sort things out at work. I leaned back, processing. We can downsize. Cut the guest list, cheaper venue. No. Darren cut in quickly, a little too quickly. I mean, my parents would be upset. They've already told everyone. It's got to be good, Ella. My stomach nodded. Fine, I said finally, not wanting to argue. But we'll need to stick to a strict budget. As the wedding day approached, the expenses piled up, and Darren's contributions dwindled. His parents, Janet and Tom, were no help either. They had opinions about everything, from the flower arrangements to the menu, but never once offered financial help or to tone down their lavish tastes. The wedding day itself was beautiful despite the behind-the-scenes drama. I managed to push aside my frustration and focus on Darren, who looked genuinely happy as he waited for me at the altar. The ceremony was perfect, but the reception was where things started to unravel. As we mingled with guests, I noticed Janet and Tom huddled around the gift table, whispering and pointing. Curious, I wandered over. Everything okay here? I asked, trying to sound casual. Oh, Ella, we're just sorting. Some of these gifts will look better at our house, don't you think? Janet said, her voice too sweet. I stared at her, stunned. What? No, these gifts are for